The Miami Hurricanes have cracked the AP top 10. That's great, but the real challenge is going to be staying there.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. I am Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Lockon ACC, and writer for Canes County on Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. So, okay, I mentioned at the top, Miami has cracked the Associated Press top 10, and you've probably seen the stat now. It's been going around social media. I know our friend of the show, Gio Milian, has posted this, that Miami is in the top 10 for the first time since 2020. But I also looked up the last time Miami finished a season in the top 10. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk with our guest today about all the young Miami Hurricanes players who are stepping up. We had several get opportunities to get playing time for the first time against Florida A&M. Some big stats were put up. We'll talk about Cam Ward and how special he's been so far this season. And let's bring on very good friend of the show. You see his work at Q Sports Media. He's on X at Q Sports Media 2. I also always see him with the great folks at Caneville. Dante from Q Sports Media is with us. So Dante, again, we know the last time Miami cracked the top 10 was in 2020. The last time Miami finished a season in the AP top 10, I looked this up, was 2003. It's been a long time since Miami has finished the season in the top 10. Do you think they have the roster and the leadership now that they can play consistently and actually finish what they've started?
I believe that they do, and I've always said that this Canes team is different from any other just because of the amount of depth that we carry. Um, a lot of the times when someone goes down, that's normally what hurts us. We had in 2017 where we had the great year, and obviously we had Malik Rozier, who is also, I know, is a friend of the show. Um, he played great that whole year, never got hurt, and then if you remember the next year in 2018, he did get a little banged up, and it kind of became a little battle between him and Nkosi, and it kind of wasn't the same feeling as it was the year prior. So I think that this year we do have the depth to, make that push, and if someone goes down, we definitely have guys who can come in and back us up and not have a fall off like we've already seen with Ruben Bain and Tyler Barron coming in and kind of just taking over the spotlight.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. And I think depth is the most important thing, right? To know that, because obviously Miami would have won the FAMU game regardless of Ruben Bain playing or not playing. He didn't play in the FAMU game, but to see Ruben, and he's going to be better very soon, but he went out in the first defensive series against Florida. And Miami had enough depth where it's like you didn't miss Bain in the rest of that game because Tyler Barrett steps up and he wreaks havoc in the Florida Gators backfield. And again, I know it's FAMU, but so, Jalen Rivers sits out the FAMU game as a precaution, and Markel Bell goes out there and gets really valuable experience getting his first start at left tackle. He, aside from the holding penalty, I thought he grew into the game really nicely. And of course, you want to have Jalen Rivers for all the big games, and I think you will, but seeing depth step up the way that it has, and also, at corner, seeing the way OJ Frederique has stepped up as a true freshman, Diani Hill steps up and starts in this past game. I think depth, like you said, I think that's the most important thing. And I think the next most important thing, Dante, is the mentality of this football team, because there have been so many years, like last year, Miami started the season 4-0. They were ranked, not in the top 10, I don't think, but they were ranked before the Georgia Tech thing happened. And then, you lost a bunch of games that you probably shouldn't have lost last year. So maintaining that focus throughout 12 plus games, playing up to your standard throughout 12 plus games. So offensive line coach Alex Mirabal, who has some of the best mantras. He's a very motivational guy, always talks about winning the week and winning every single day, right? Today is Monday. You want to go 1-0 against Monday to 1-0 against Tuesday tomorrow, and so on. And I think I'm cautiously optimistic, Dante, that with the leadership Miami has, because you truly have some special players, not only on the field but off the field. Because Cam Ward is not only a sensational quarterback, but he holds everybody accountable. Xavier
Big
Restrepo,
time leader.
yeah, Jalen Rivers, Kiko Maui Noah. You have, I think, a special mix of guys that hopefully are not going to allow mental lapses consistently in games if Miami's going to finish the job that they've now started, being the 10th ranked team in America at this point.
Yeah, I agree. People haven't really been talking about the fact that Damari Brown is out. And we've had corners come in and fill in his spot, like Deani Hill and OJ, who didn't really fill in, started as a freshman. But man, it's been impressive to watch him. So yeah, I just wanted to mention the fact that Damari Brown is, gotten hurt, and we've had guys to come in and fill in for him. But for what you're speaking about, yeah, I agree. The standard has completely changed. You look at a guy like Jacoby George, who was brought in during the Manny Diaz era, and most of his biggest issues throughout his time here was the fact that, you know, he couldn't really keep his cool on the field. There was times where he was getting penalties after plays that were really costing us, especially last year. And now you see him on the field kind of egging it on, and guys are hitting him in the face, and he's just kind of like, "Oh, I gotcha. That's a 15-yard penalty. I was in your shoes before, bro. Now I'm the one egging it on." Which I love that, because it really shows the growth, and it really shows how George is really putting the team before himself. And even during the FAMU game, when I believe it was number 2 smacked him in the face, Cam Ward kind of looked at Jacoby like, I was standing there on the sideline, and I saw Cam look at Jacoby like, "Good job, bro. Like, you're egging it on, and we know exactly what you're doing."
That is such a great point, because Jacoby George, he's showing so much more maturity. And I remember, so before the season even started, it was one of those awesome episodes of the Canes Camp YouTube series that Miami puts out. And I love what they're doing now with the cinematic recaps of games. It's really good. But in one of those Canes Camp episodes, Jacoby mentioned, like, he said, I feel like I've really matured this year. And I remember watching that thinking, it's great to hear him say that. Let's prove it on the field. And so far he's proven it, right? Florida was trying to bait him into retaliation. Didn't happen. You see him
Yeah.
showing restraint against FAMU as well. I love that. So I want to bring up this top 10, Dante, so everyone can take a look at it. And again, this is a starting point. This hopefully is not the end point for Miami, because you need to continue the focus for the entire year to maintain a top 10 ranking and hopefully rise in it. So you see Miami at number 10. Oregon is still ranked above Miami. Oregon has actually looked unconvincing in their first 2 wins against lesser opposition. They really had to battle against Boise State. They had a tough week 1. So they're winning games. Oregon has not really looked like a top 10 team so far. Same thing with Penn State. They had to come from behind to beat Bowling Green. Tennessee at number 7. They just destroyed NC State. So Tennessee is very deserving of a top 10 ranking. You see Missouri at number 6, Ole Miss at number 5, Alabama at number 4. Bama had to, I know the score didn't look close, but their game until about halfway through the fourth quarter was close against USF. We'll talk more about USF
Yeah.
as a potential trap game for Miami. Ohio State at number 3, Texas, who demolished Michigan at number 2, and Georgia has done, nothing not to maintain their number 1 ranking. And so, Dante, when we think about, and you're actually a USF alum, so you probably can speak on this better than most. That's a game in 2 weeks that USF might be a bigger challenge for Miami than UF was.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's bigger, but definitely that USF game is a trap game.
Yeah.
Coach Golish is really changing the standard over there. Those guys are really buying into the program. They got a young quarterback who's who's been playing really well, and they have some South Florida guys over there that have been able to put on for the crib for back home. Um, yeah, I've been saying it since the start of the year. USF really is a trap game. We have to go to Raymond James. I just hope that the boys come in there really locked in, and Cam Ward really has those guys, freshened up and locked in on the main goal, which is going 1-0 every single week.
Yeah, because that's the type of game that the Miami of the past several years probably loses that game, even after,
Walks in there
what's
sleeping.
yeah, absolutely. Even after, right now it's a 2-0 start, expected to be 3-0 after hosting Ball State this week. Miami's of the past would, like you said, sleepwalk in there and lose that game. It's up to this team to show us they are not the Miami of the past. And folks, we have so much more to get to with our friend Dante here on this episode of Locked On Canes. There are so many young players who got a chance to step up and put up plays and make stats in that FAMU game. And in fact, some of the young players already got a chance to step up in the Florida game. We'll talk about that. I want to get Dante's take on Cam Ward because, in yesterday's episode, Sunday, we talked about how Ward is him at Miami. And I also think Ward is one of one. And, Miami needs to find a way to win with this guy. You have him for 1 year. So, folks, you want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I'm only getting started with 5-hour energy. Folks, football season is 5-hour energy season for me because I love to stay up late for the primetime games. I wake up early every single day. 5-hour energy helps me jump over that wall instead of crashing into it. After I drink a 5-hour energy, I jump over that wall like Cam Ward jumping over a defender to score that touchdown that he scored against Florida A&M. That's what 5-hour energy does to me, guys. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On the site, 5hourenergy.com, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-hour energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid till September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Thank you so much to the Everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. And if you want to take your Everydayer experience to the next level, sign up to become a Locked On Canes insider. I include a link in the show description below. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours with breaking news, recruiting updates, show updates, questions and answers on there. Try it free for 14 days. Click the link below. If you like it, you can opt in then after 14 days for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. Get a lot of added value here when our guy Dante, Q Sports Media, joins us. So, Dante, 2 games in, has Cam Ward exceeded your expectations so far at quarterback for Miami? And what has stood out to you most about his game?
Well, he hasn't really exceeded it just because of the fact we've been able to see him make these crazy throws since spring practice.
Yeah.
I remember talking to my dad on the phone. I'm like, hey, man, you're not going to like when you're watching this guy play at first because he throws these crazy, real wild throws that you may not think can get completed, but trust me, he will complete them. He has a will to him that he's going to make a play happen if there's only 3% chance of it happening. I love how Cam Ward is throwing with these different arm angles. It's just been really amazing to me. You've seen the stats, how he's the top Canes passer in the first 2 games of the season, passing Ken Dorsey and a bunch of greats like that. One thing that's really stood out to me is that I don't know if this guy likes to take hits, but he will willingly throw a ball into a hit. And I don't know if he's just trying to prove a point or maybe psychologically he's just built different like that. But man, this guy takes hits while he's making these crazy throws, 30, 40 yards down the field. And oh man, I think that's just created a boost to our team morality. And it's really showing these guys like, man, if our quarterback's able to sling it like that while taking a hit, why can't we go out there and block for an extra 3 seconds? Why can't we create a couple 3, 4 yards of separation, you know? Um, I believe that Cam Ward has changed the morality and the standard of this team by so much, and he's leading while he's playing, you know? He doesn't really have to talk, but he does it anyways.
That is so well said. And it's like I look at both the short term and the long term for Miami football. And I credit Mario Cristobal and his coaching staff. They're clearly doing a great job stacking talent. And I believe Miami is building the sort of roster where they should be in the conversation for the next several years. Like I believe in the long term build, but then I look in the short term, Dante, and this is no disrespect to any of the other quarterbacks who are on Miami's roster right now, and no disrespect to whoever they might theoretically go out and get if they do, grab somebody in the transfer portal next year. I think Cam Ward is so special. I think he's one of one that it's like, even though I'm not saying this is like a one and done type of year for Miami, but at the same time, like, I don't know how long it might take to get another guy like this at the most important position of the game. Like, I think Cam Ward is that special. So do you feel like there's maybe extra emphasis on winning something this year, right? Whatever that is, whether it's a national championship, which obviously would not be easy to win, an ACC championship, which seems attainable right now, making a college football playoff run. Don't you feel extra emphasis to do that because you got Cam Ward for 1 year? You got to try to maximize that.
Yeah, definitely some emphasis. And I think the emphasis notification came through my phone right after he threw that back end zone touchdown to Jacoby George, which was ironically right in front of me. I was with
Oh
my
yeah.
camera and Jacoby George stood up, started doing the chomp. And right there, I stood up after they started walking away, and I'm just like, things have changed around here big time. This guy Cam Ward is doing things that we just have literally never have seen.
Yeah, it's crazy. And okay, so we talked a little bit about the USF game, which is 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away now for Miami. You cannot take that team for granted. I know again they lost to Alabama, but Alabama didn't pull away till the fourth quarter. They played Alabama tough a year ago in South Florida. That's a program on the rise, USF. What other games do you look at as being potentially the trickiest or the toughest on the schedule the rest of the way?
So, most of the fans will say, or in analysis will say that Louisville will be the toughest one. It's going to be at Louisville. They're a ranked team. You know, a bunch of South Florida kids that go to Louisville, so there's a little bit more of a rivalry that gets developed. But for me, I think that USF and Virginia Tech are the scariest games for me, just because I know Kyron Drones is going to come in there with his hair lit on fire. Him and Cam Ward are good friends. They train together. You know, they're off season partners. There's definitely going to be some trash talking going on there, and the game's definitely going to mean different for the both of them. Kyron's got something to prove, and I think he's going to come into Hard Rock Stadium, and hopefully our defense has really been able to step up in these two games. So hopefully in that Virginia Tech game they get boosted up a little bit. I'm sure Cam Ward will have a couple things to say.
That's such a great point on the Drones Ward connection because like in that they're going to be trying to top each other in that game. Like if Ward throws a touchdown,
Yeah,
Drones is going to be like, "Yeah, I see you. Now watch what I go out there and do." So that's an
100%.
unbelievable point because we know Ward's personality. Like Ward is so competitive, and Drones, based on the footage we've seen from those workouts with them and Shador Sanders, Drones seems like he's the same way. So that game's going to be extra fun for that reason. Now, the other game, Dante, because I watched a lot of ACC football over the weekend, I watched the Cal Bears travel across the country as they're going to have to do a lot this season and outplay Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And then Miami in a few weeks is going to have to go out to Cal to play them out there, which is always going to be a tricky road trip when the teams have to go out west. And like, I'm not sleeping on Cal either at this point. Like, maybe it's good for Miami that Cal beat Auburn, because now no one can ignore that team.
Yeah. Yeah, plus the fact that we got to take a flight all the way over there. That's a
Ugh,
long flight for us. We're not really
yeah,
used to that.
no.
And those are the kind of games where we have those long flights, we're undefeated. You can let the wind blow over your head for a couple of minutes, but at the end of the day, my belief really goes into Cam Ward and Mario Cristobal, and the fact that those two guys are not going to let this team sleepwalk into any kind of stadium that we walk into in 2024. And, hopefully in 2025, we have a couple of big games that we'll be talking about.
When we come back, I want to talk about young Miami Hurricanes that are already making an impact on this team. Like we just saw interception from Cameron Bobby Pruitt, first sack as a Hurricane for Justin Scott, who I think is going to be an increasingly bigger part of the rotation. We're seeing OJ Frederique, Jordan Lyle get a ton of playing time and doing big things. These young Canes, again, this is not a team that has to rely on freshmen, but some of these freshmen are showing you can't keep us on the bench. Guys, you want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. You need to get this Ibata app in your life. Guys, with Ibata, I'm getting cash back buying stuff that I'd be buying anyway. It's a life hack is what it is, Ibata. Guys, it's still grilling season. Stock up on all your barbecue favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibata. So you won't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs. You can get them both. Ibata is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores or Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so much more. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app, and start earning cash back. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONCollege at Ibotta. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure for your next listen, you check out Locked On ACC. I co-host that show with Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. His Wolfpack had a tough game. They were blown out by Tennessee. Kenton stood in the paint. We talked about it on our latest episode. We also talked about Cal's big upset. We talked about Notre Dame. NIU went into South Bend and beat Notre Dame. It was a great episode we just did on Locked On ACC. Make sure you check it out. Free, available wherever you get your podcasts, and free on YouTube. We're talking with Dante from Q Sports Media, nice enough to join us here on Locked On Canes. And so, all right, Dante, we've seen a number of freshmen getting playing time and making plays. I think 5 true freshmen played against Florida. A lot of true freshmen got to play against FAMU. Which ones have stood out most to you?
So the ones that have stood out to me personally are the first guy I want to talk about is Elija Lofton, just because that guy is doing all of the dirty work and nobody's really seeing it. I'm definitely seeing it. He's out there blocking as a tight end. He's gotten a couple like tunnel screens as a tight end. He's playing great. I like to mention Darius Hayes. He's had a couple of big hits on kickoff. Yesterday, he had an interception, first of his career, so shout out to him. Like you said, Pruitt had a nice interception as well. Shout out to him. And then, man, OJ Frederique to come out there straight out of St. Thomas Aquinas. We knew he was built for it. He's come out here starting as a freshman. He's really held his own. He hasn't really had any mental mistakes, which is the biggest thing because, as a freshman, that's what's going to come starting a freshman. And surprisingly, it hasn't come with him. So props to OJ for, keeping his head on a swivel, keeping his mind on track, being able to stay locked in and not blow any assignments. As a freshman, you got to give props to him.
And also, like, I forget that Jordan Lyle is a freshman just based on because he's already
Yeah.
prominently in that running back rotation. He's essentially been, if you go by the reps and the production, he's essentially been the third running back behind Damian
Yep.
Martinez and Mark Fletcher. It was his birthday on Saturday. He scored his first Miami touchdown. And it's like, you talk about doing all the little things. That's how Jordan Lyle's been able to get on the field so much because you can trust him to run the football, but you can also trust him to protect your quarterback.
Yeah, you see him in the press box, you can tell, or the press conference, that he's so excited to be there. He's so happy to be a Cane. Uh, Man, he runs so viciously, especially for his size. He's breaking the first tackle almost every time, which is very surprising, especially being a freshman. Um, and he's got two great leaders with Dame Martinez and Big Fletch. He's got two great leaders in front of him to really show him the way, show him what he's supposed to do and what he's not supposed to be doing, because that's also really important as well. Can't just be giving these guys props when they're doing good. You really got to beat into them and make sure that they know the rights and the wrongs, so that when those moments come, they're going to be doing the right thing instead of the wrong.
You cover recruiting a lot as well, and high school games and camps and workouts.
Yeah.
Suddenly we're starting to turn our attention to possible flips, right? I mean, DJ Pickett has watched Miami in person for the last couple weeks. He says he's probably going to come back for the Florida State game in late October. That his dad wants to check that game out and come back to Miami for that. We saw TJ Alford, at the game this past weekend. He's an Ohio State commit. DJ Pickett, an LSU commit right now. There's also some guys who are uncommitted, like linebacker Kellen Wiley from Armwood, who Miami seems to be making a lot of progress with. It's like, do you see some of these possible flips? Do you see these going in Miami's way when it's all said and done? And how valuable is this 2-0 start for recruiting?
Very valuable, super valuable. I believe it's one of the biggest values that we have right now. DJ Pickett said it himself. Me and Caneville, after the game, we went and talked to him, and he mentioned the fact that winning does matter, and that a win against Florida, you know, really is going to open his eyes, that he wanted to see Miami win this game. I believe that's a huge thing. And the linebacker from Armwood, man, oof, when I saw him week one, I had no idea who he was, and what him walking down the sidelines warming up, I had no choice but to watch him because the kid is built to play college football right now. I'm not surprised that Miami is recruiting him hard right now and is really on his trail. Um, that kid is a stud. When he was playing against Norland, he was really hard not to watch.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. Like, I didn't know, and obviously, like you and I probably don't follow Armwood as close as some people do outside of Gerard Pringle, of course. Gerard has been on our radar
Also
for
a
a
stud.
while. Also an absolute stud, but it's like I didn't know outside of Pringle. I didn't really know Armwood's roster very well. And Callan Wiley, like this dude, like I don't know how he flew under the radar for as long as he did, but the secret is out because
It's out, man.
Miami's not the only team that wants him, but I feel like Miami was ahead of the curve on him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I believe Armwood beating Norland really put them in the spotlight. Besides the fact that they already have a wide receiver that's committed to Georgia, and
Yeah.
then also Gerard Pringle, and their quarterback really isn't too bad either. He's a solid high school quarterback. Um, but yeah, Wiley is different, man. He's definitely built different. He moves at a different speed, and I'm not surprised that the country is taking notice of what he's doing on the field.
No doubt about that. Well, I hope everyone's taking notice of the great work that Dante is doing. He does an awesome job with the guys at Caneville. Oh, go ahead. You got something else for me?
Not about Wiley. I wanted to mention one thing about Oregon before we end the show. I wanted to say everyone always wants to talk about year three and how year three is the year where you're supposed to really see that big difference, right? So it's Mario's year three in Miami, and it's Oregon's year three without Mario. And Miami's offensive line has become really, really good. And Oregon's offensive line has taken a step back in year three. So people want to talk about that year three. People need to talk about the development that Mario had with Oregon's offensive line and the development that he currently has with Miami's offensive line.
Amen to that. You're right about that. You're so right. And again, and like Dan Lanning, he had saying, I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but like he had a lot of success with Cristobal's players, and people all of a sudden Dan Lanning is the best thing since sliced bread. But now it's like most of your recruits are the ones that are on the field. It doesn't look the same. Doesn't look the same
And everyone
anymore.
wants to throw dirt on Mario. It's like,
I know.
come on, we're all fans of college football. We
Yeah.
understand the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Recruiting, roster building is such a huge part of it. Awesome job here by Dante. You guys want to follow him on X at Q Sports Media 2. Follow him on all the social medias at Q Sports Media. He and we're Instagram buddies as well. You want to check all that stuff out, guys. If you're watching us here on Locked On Canes, you're watching the YouTube version, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version, which is great, take us with you wherever you go. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods. And we will talk to you again tomorrow. Tomorrow, the truth teller will be back. He was on a cruise last week. He's back home. He'll be back in the spotlight with us tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.